Bueno, ahora sí ya. No, está. Vamos a ver qué sucede con esto. Ujú. Ok, a ver, vamos a ver. Ujú. Bueno. Bueno.
Okay, welcome, students. This is Jack Hadman speaking. I'll be guiding you through the process of the autopsy today as my student. It's best to start off by putting on the appropriate gear before starting. Then we'll want to examine the police records to gather information. Before we enter the autopsy, we'll also need to take Polaroids of the external injuries, too. Before we begin the internal examination, we need to document the cadaver in the condition it arrived in. So, we begin with a full-body photo.
ya. Así ya. Estaba medio raro ahí, pero ya. Así ya.
Before cutting open the cadaver, we should examine the external glass.
Sacar la foto. Mira, no quiero sacar la foto. ¿Eh? Esos moretones que están ahí. Tengo que sacar la foto. Ay, no sé, pero no quiere. Otra vez. Creo que se me da el modo correcto. Pienso que cada capa por la máquina.
Office of the Medical Examiner, Beatsville. Dr. Jack Hanman is speaking. How can I help you?
Good evening, this is Kate Brooks. I'm not sure if you remember me. A few weeks ago, we had an article I'm working on. It's about your wife. I dropped by last Friday to speak to you, but you were working at the time. I asked the security guard to pass on a note for me. I would like us to discuss the topic of...
I thought I had made it painfully obvious for the last time. No! Please don't call me again and stop inquiring about my wife. Damn journalists. They don't let me work. God damn it. I'm not in the best frame of mind to record a lecture for my students now. I'm feeling completely broken. Where did I leave my meds this time? Okay, time to pull myself together. And get back to work. I need to set the camera first. Let's hope I'm not caught short this evening. Now remember, Jack, don't forget to hit the record button this time. Hopefully the new tripod is going to hold up. Now, I just have to get everything in frame. This should be fine. November 20th, 1991. Time, 8:43 p.m. Recording for medical students from the University of Missouri. This autopsy is conducted by Jack Hanman. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the autopsy room. Let's start. Always wear an apron, mask, and gloves. Goggles are a must when the job is splashy. And in case of sharp accidents, it's worth having disinfectants at hand. It's true that you won't get ptomaine poisoning straight away, but if your liver or kidney aren't doing well, you may end up with diarrhea. The cadaver is placed on its back on the autopsy table. The pathologist stands on the right of the deceased. Make sure that all the necessary tools are always at hand so that you don't have to run around looking for something, like I do all the time. In the process of revealing and securing forensic evidence, it is difficult not to interfere with the original condition of the deceased. Written and photographic documentation plays a vital role throughout the entire examination process. During your research, be patient, inquisitive, but above all, attentive to detail. Many entries are visible at first glance, but sometimes they can be cover for more interesting stories. And lastly, remember that nothing teaches you self-narration like working with the dead. So get used to that fact soon. Everyone will think you're talking to yourself. Now, onto the police folder.
That will contain all sorts of pertinent information as to who the deceased might be and what potentially happened to them. So, let's take a closer look, shall we? The deceased's name is Tobias Chambers, locally known as Old Toby. Homeless and unemployed for at least a couple of years. The deceased was found on the outskirts of a parking lot at a gas station, where he often begged and persistently offered drivers to wash their car windows. The body was noticed by a station employee during the morning shift. Initially, he thought that someone had thrown some boots and a coat in a nearby ditch. It took him a moment to recognize the pile of clothes as the body of a man. He worked most of his life at the local port dealing with unloaded cargo. He was fired for being drunk and starting fights. His son runs a hardware store on his own. His wife left him years ago. They both had no contact with the deceased. Signs of libation were found around the body. Empty bottles, traces of an inept attempt to start a fire, and a scattered makeshift blanket. That's it. It's worth remembering the context around the scene of a death. This allows you to better interpret any traces found on the body. I shouldn't start the procedure without gloves. Now it's our turn to take some pictures for our files. If I can just remember where I left the camera. It's in here somewhere. Aha! There you are. I knew it was here somewhere. As I mentioned at the beginning, before we begin the internal examination, we need to document the cadaver and the condition it arrived in. We begin with a full body photo. Try and stick to the top-down rule, but this is not always possible. Let's keep in mind it's all about the legibility, not the perfect frame. we move on to the next step, looking for traces. Take your time. Look at the corpse from different sides, from different angles, up close, and from a distance. You're looking for anything out of the ordinary. That's something interesting. It will be necessary to check whether this injury was severe enough to cause damage to the brain. The boiler-healed wound. Looks old. I'll take a closer look later. Hardened hands, worn out by physical work, and frostbite? Some wounds on the feet and signs of frostbite, probably because the subject's shoes were too small. In a moment, we will check which of our initial observations will be worthy of further consideration. But before we get to that, I need to write down some basic data. Personal information. The deceased was unclothed. Date. Okay. As you can see, I note everything down on previously prepared forms. Every pathologist must keep a detailed record of every step of the autopsy. This not only allows you to track the procedure, but also collates the results together, upon which you may back up your conclusions. So, enough of the boring prep. Let's begin by taking a closer look at the spots I photographed earlier. For this, you're going to need a magnifying glass. Which spot first? Here we can see frostbite on the fingertips. We can tell by the characteristic skin color. It looks like a burn mark. No doubt painful, but it's not pertinent for this case. I can confirm the presence of ecchymosis on the deceased man's head. The appearance indicates the intravital nature of the wound. Add alcohol, which I can clearly smell, and this was an accident just waiting to happen. Definitely a painful mix of frostbite, abrasions, and blisters. Old Toby had been wearing shoes too small for him for a very long time. That's if he wore any at all. So far, there are a lot of superficial wounds, but only one serious injury to the head. Let's go back to our notes. First, I mark the location of the entries and make notes for each one. So... Even though this type of wound didn't contribute to the deceased the head wound, definitely an important. If Toby's body was cold for a prolonged period, we're not in frost season yet, but high humidity, wind, and the inability to warm up can also be causes of frostbite. As you can see, we don't have much to go on. Let's write down what preliminary causes of death we can think of. This is of no interest to us. The nights have been particularly nasty lately. We will check if there are any signs of freezing internally. Various types of accidents are a common cause of death among the homeless and the elderly. Perhaps old Toby slipped and accidentally hit his head. Considering the conditions in which he slept, his body may have become hypothermic. Since the deceased clearly smelled of alcohol, I'll add alcohol poisoning to our list. We still have one thing left from the basics: rigor mortis. Well, we take our deceased by the hand, gradually re-raise it,
Ya, ábrele ese perro.
Now let it go. As you can see, the hand falls loose. What's the conclusion? Death must have occurred more than 72 hours ago. The police information appears correct. Head trauma seems the most promising, so for this, I need an oscillating saw. The cut is made from ear to ear.
Anything na.
After which, we remove the skin and the top of the skull. After the basic examination, we can see that the brain's cerebral gyri in both hemispheres are symmetric. The brain looks good. Let's take a cross-section. Some pathologists prefer to examine organs without removing them. However, for me, it's much more convenient to examine them on a board, which we'll do now.
Espérame tantito. Ya, quédate ahí. Sentado. Acá. Ven acá. Espérame tantito. Hagas eso.
Holding a long, narrow blade knife in the dominant hand, we slowly cut the cranial nerves on both sides, all the time pulling the brain towards us. So far, so good. The hematoma seems to have had no effect on the brain. Pills. I need my pills. We can rule the fatal accident. Brain is in good condition, so we have no choice but to proceed to the internal examination of the other organs. I grab a scalpel from my kit. The incision should be in the shape of a letter Y. We use a deep cut to reach all the way to the ribs and to penetrate the abdominal wall. All right, now we peel back and separate the skin. Now, we need to remove the ribs. We'll need the loppers for this. Quite a satisfying crunch, for some anyway. After removing the cartilage tissue, we instantly notice two things. Firstly, there is no congestion of the internal organs. This means that although the deceased was hypothermic, it didn't kill him. Secondly, the deceased smoked like a chimney. So, we should take a closer look at those lungs. We can see widespread black and tarry deposits caused by smoking sick. Despite the tragic condition of the lungs, they are not the cause of death. Alice smoked too. It didn't kill her, but... what was I talking about? Lungs. Yes. It advanced inflammation. What now? The syringe. Now's a good time to collect some samples. Specifically 3. From the eye, the heart, and the bladder. I'm interested to see the concentration of alcohol in the body. 5 milliliters from the left ventricle should do it. But from the bladder, we draw about 10 milliliters of fluid. Vitreous humor analysis is very useful in indicating long-term alcohol abuse. Now we take our samples to the centrifuge. But before I do that, I need to find my notebook. My dyscalculia means that I always double-check the settings. Please excuse me while I run and fetch it. My old but trusted centrifuge. Ideal for all the fluid tests I need to perform during an autopsy. My old but trusted centrifuge. Ideal for all the fluid tests I need to perform during an autopsy. This old thing is covered in stains. I should check this out under the microscope sometime. Let's get back to the examination. We put all of the samples into the rotor. Now, we set the appropriate time and speed. Okay, let's roll. Oh shit, the fuses again. A considerable collection. A considerable collection. My old but trusted centrifuge. My old but trusted centrifuge. Ideal for all the fluid tests I need to perform during an autopsy. I wasn't sure it would amount to anything, but the World Wide Web has been a blessing for speeding up my work. Where were we? Oh yes, the blood alcohol concentration. Let's see what we've got here. Everything's separated as it should. Our lab is closed until tomorrow after the last, incident. However, considering that Toby's favorite eau de parfum appears to be ethanol, I'm guessing the results won't surprise me at all. Let's go further. We will now focus on the cardiovascular system, specifically the heart. We remove the organ and examine it closely. We look for dark hypoxic areas, clots, or other elements that stand out as abnormal. At first glance, the heart looks fine. The pulmonary trunk and aorta seem to be in good condition. There are no pathological changes that would have contributed to Toby's death. Now let's take a closer look at the stomach. Size is normal, healthy, pink color, and as expected, the stomach has no major external damage. We must now cut it open and inspect inside. We will do it carefully so that its contents do not spill out. We open the stomach along the greater curvature, from the heart to the pyloric end. Oh, I already feel like there's something left inside.
La mano se está bien feo.
Okay, large amount of gas, small amounts of yellow, grayish food content, resembling some kind of meat. Either our deceased hadn't eaten in days, or the bulk of his stomach had already found a way out. Looks like I'll have to find the missing contents. There are two ways here. One is obvious, and the other is... It couldn't have been suffocation, could it? I'll add this to the list and move on to the deceased's neck. At first glance, the trachea looks normal. Same result as with the stomach. The external inspection doesn't tell us anything. This time we'll cut on a tray. While cutting such a small organ as the trachea, we must make a precise incision. To be able to cut with the very tip of the blade, we must hold the scalpel as we would a pen. And after careful examination and deduction, we've got it, a clogged trachea. It's time to summarize the whole thing. Based on the report and preliminary documentation, it's safe to assume that the deceased passed out after consumption of alcohol and then fell asleep on his back. Then, the gastric contents refluxed and flooded the airways, causing death. That's why we don't forget about the recovery position at dorm parties. And now it's all clear. The death was suffocation. Now, signature. The mystery is solved. But for us, this is not the end. First, the dead body needs to be cleaned up. For this, we will need to close the body and grab the needle. First, we unroll the skin flaps. And then, we sew the deceased back up. I'm using the baseball stitch technique. This stitching method is very strong and quick to do. Beautiful. Now we say goodbye to the deceased and put them safely in the fridge, ready for the next stage of their journey. Scalpel, scissors, syringe, magnifying glass, knife. I guess I forgot to clean the knife.
¿Qué? Yo lo subo. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Qué te digo? Ya cállate. Dios.
And God, I'm tired. I'll drop these samples off at the lab on the way to the bar. I'll call Steven. I don't feel like drinking alone today.
Muncul lagi.
Forgive me. What? Fuck. I should take my pills. So much light everywhere. The remnants of last night's binge with Steven. I'm not sure if it's still edible. I'm not in the mood for music lately. It's a shame this won't help with my hangover. The fucking phone. Okay. I know I'm late. I'll be there soon. It's not like the dead are impatient.
Jack, no.
Alice? Who is this?
It's Charlotte Graves.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. I didn't recognize you. I thought it was work calling.
It's okay. I hate it when work calls me at home, too. How is everything? We haven't talked since... you know.
Well, there are good days, and there are bad days. What can I say? At least I can hide away at work.
Well, you always were the most comfortable in the dissecting room. Listen, I have an unusual request.
Okay, how can I help?
It's nothing serious. I just wanted to ask, do you have any pictures of us? Maybe one where the two of us are together? I'd love to have something to remind me of her.
I guess. I'm not sure. I'll look through her things.
Thank you. I'm sorry to trouble you with this. All this can't be easy for you.
I'll get through it somehow. I've been meaning to sort through her stuff for a while. Have you asked Steven if he has anything?
Yes, I spoke with him this morning. He said he gave everything to their mother and that I should ask you.
I see.
Jack, I know you're trying. That you cope somehow. Steven's there for you. Although, well, we all know how he can be. But, I mean, if you want him to reminisce about Alice, talk.
I really should go now. I overslept. I'm late for work. And I still have some errands to run away.
Okay. Sorry.
I'll look for something and send it over. Thanks for the call, and bye.
Oh, do you have my address?
Not on hand. You'd best remind me again. expected. I should probably find something to send. Menu for today. Dinner in town and takeaway coffee. I'm not in the mood for music lately. I still feel uneasy. At this time, Alice would probably be sitting here reading a book. The remnants of last night's binge with Steven. I'm not sure if it's still edible. What have I done to you, Alice? An indispensable element of every office. I should really try and read it. It's just too dirty to use. Time flies, and probably doesn't have to get up to work. Alice and Charlotte in Amsterdam. It would be better if Charlotte had this. It deserves to be on display, and not hidden in a drawer. These were from Thanksgiving. Stephen invited me. I was going to give them to his mother, but then I met Alice. That was the first time I saw her. It's always good to have something for a rainy day. I wasn't able to support her through this. It was a miracle that the coffee didn't wash off the right way. And that she said yes. She got it for her first day of work, and she broke it the same day. She said it was for luck. She always believed she could change people for the better, even me. It's been almost a year. These were from Thanksgiving. Stephen invited me. I was going to give them to his mother, but then I met Alice. That was the first time I saw her. I really need to get this laundry done. I really need to get this laundry done. Time flies. He doesn't have to get up to work. It hurts too much to look at these, but I can't throw them away. It hurts too much to look at these, but I can't throw them away. Some days, I just feel like setting fire to all this paperwork. I'm fed up with it. Okay, time to go to work. I'm seriously late. I should grab some coffee and aspirin on the way. I hope this helps, Charlotte. Okay, all done here. Time to go. Damn, I forgot my jacket. Ah, well. I'll brave it for tonight. Too bad.
Almuerzo se ve como me va. Bien.
Nice and fresh. At least it's peaceful here. Good evening, Mr. Ridley. Has Stephen delivered the body? Did he leave it where he usually does? As always, it's a real pleasure talking to you.
If you say so.
Some corpses have more personality than this guy. Christ. Who leaves the window open in the middle of November? So I'd better check the answering machine. Mom always said not to accept sweets from strangers. Mom always said not to accept sweets from strangers.
Hi, Jack. I dropped by a little early today. I left the body with Ridley in the corridor. He wasn't sitting in the locker then, so maybe he'll even throw him into the room. Well, how are you doing? Yeah, I mean, it's your first birthday without her, and... This, I still have a hangover, and you know me, I run to the John like the neighbor's fucking dog. You know, today I slipped on his shit again. That fucking furball. He always has to shit next to my car. Anyway, I can't come over in the evening, but we'll catch up on the weekend, okay? Bye. I almost forgot. Charlotte called me this morning. She asked about you, so answer your calls, Jack. This time it's not a reprimand for being late.
That's par for the course. I wonder when this clown will learn to look under his feet. Due to a lack of preparation, this time the lecture will be improvised. Due to a lack of preparation, this time the lecture will be improvised. Oh, it's actually my birthday, or they must have marked them down. I guess it was in another life. You won't be needed for the next few months. I don't understand why you can't just smoke outside. Birthday. I actually forgot it was today. Alice baked me muffins like these every birthday. Okay, joke's over. Apron, gloves, and get to work. I need to order another batch of these. I've got to remember to do that later. Oh, man. I remember you. You were on that talent show. What was your name again? Steven laughs at me for recording everything. He says I have a bigger collection of stuff like this than most of the creeps he's caught. November 21st, 1991. Time, 9:13 p.m. The autopsy is conducted by Jack Hanman. Lecture for the Medical University of Missouri. After yesterday's lecture, you should already know the ins and outs, so today we'll be consolidating our knowledge. So, where do I start? That's right, Billy's folder.
Saluditos a todos.
Ah, yes. Samantha Barker. Now I remember. There's probably gonna be a lot of chatter about this. When questioned, friends admitted that Samantha's last days before losing contact seemed extremely happy and relaxed. She also quit drinking alcohol and mentioned something about rehab. The friend also admits that there was no indication of an impending tragedy. Found in her own apartment by police patrol, officers were called by a concerned friend of the deceased who had been unable to contact Barker for several days. During the interrogation, a friend of the deceased admitted that Samantha never got to grips with the sudden fame that came after winning such a high-profile talent show. After her first album became a commercial success, she was hit with a creative drought. She suffered panic attacks and severe sleep problems. Drugs and medication came into play. The deceased was found in her own apartment, in a semi-recumbent position on an armchair. Large quantities of alcohol and empty packets of sleeping pills were also found in the apartment. Well, let's see what settled this matter. As you can see, the body is fully clothed. Therefore, before we move on to photographic documentation, we must remove the clothes. We don't have to focus on the clothes too much. However, there are cases where a clothing analysis can lead to the cause of death. Okay, now we can continue with the examination. Again, begin by taking photographs of the cadaver. I guarantee that over time it will cease being embarrassing for you. First, we photograph the whole body. And now, any suspicious looking marks or wounds. Interesting. Very uneven. We need to investigate this. Well, there's even more here. You don't get such bruises from a normal contusion. Yes, I've seen this many times. A few we will need to look into here. Everyone's prepared. Time to take a closer look.
¿Por qué? Ah, ok. Haciendo TikTok.
The number of bruises suggests that there may have been some kind of tussle. Some furrows have imprinted more strongly, others less, as if someone was, undecided. Such bruises are caused by either a very heavy blow or by some internal issues. And here's something interesting. The skin of the deceased is covered with numerous blisters. Some of them are ruptured. Others still contain fluid residue. blisters. We have some leads to investigate here. Let's write this down. Currently, it's difficult to say whether the bruises were the result on the neck of the deceased, given the condition of the deceased. It's difficult to tell immediately whether the bruises were the result of a struggle, or perhaps the result of iron deficiency. Although it's easier to have abrasions on your feet, but the number and size of the blisters suggests that it's probably a matter of barbiturate poisoning. In general, such blisters usually appear in the case of mechanical abrasions, but due to the place of occurrence, they should be excluded. The most likely cause of such skin changes is the high concentration of barbiturates in the body. After examining the organs, we can easily verify whether there was internal bleeding or whether the deceased was suffering from something. A severed spinal cord, trauma to the larynx, or trachea will verify whether the hanging was the final nail in Miss Barker's coffin. The examination with a UV lamp will dispel some doubts. Potential attackers could have left traces. To be checked in the lab later. I'll add barbiturates to the list of necessary tests. Given the testimony of the victim's friend, I add alcohol poisoning to the list of potential causes of Miss Barker's death. A blood test will no doubt quickly verify that hypothesis. But first I'll check for external traces. For this we use the good old UV lamp. The area around the head is empty. Legs, there's nothing here. The left hand seems to be fine. No marks. Well, nothing to surprise us here. Now gently, we take the deceased by the hand. We check for rigor mortis.
Оперативно.
Again, the hand falls freely. Since we don't have a definitive lead, we will examine all the key organs one by one. So, I'm starting the internal inspection. I dissect the skin of the deceased. And I proceed to deflect the skin flaps. Compared with yesterday's body, the deceased has only trace amounts of adipose tissue.
Yes, sir.
Now for the ribs. What do we have here? Or rather, what don't we have? There is certainly no sign of internal bleeding. Before I disembowel the deceased, I will take samples for toxicological tests to determine the alcohol content in the body. I just need my syringe. Just to be sure, I'm taking samples from 3 organs: the eyeball, the heart, and the bladder. Analysis will rule out, or confirm, alcohol poisoning as the cause of death. I'll transfer these to the centrifuge. What was it? 15, 70, 10, 75? Numbers have never been my strong point. It's probably why I regularly forgot birthdays and anniversaries. I'm lucky Alice always forgave me. Gently does it with this old thing. Handle with kid gloves. I'm starting the centrifuge. Let's see what results come out. The laboratory is already open, so... Fucking hell! Ridley! Mr. Ridley! The fuses need resetting. Where is he? Fuck it. I'll do it myself. It's been a while since the eyewash in this thing was changed. It's probably a health hazard now. Scalpel, scissors, syringe, magnifying glass, knife. I guess I forgot to clean the knife. First the right, and then the left. And voila. Oh, for fuck's sake. Jack Hanman speaking.
Easy, why so rude?
Steve? Sorry, man. This place is falling apart, and Ridley won't even lift a finger to help. You just can't work here.
Did the centrifuge strip the fuses again?
Yeah, eventually everything's gonna go up in smoke.
Look on the bright side. It's a free cremation with your autopsy.
Jesus, stop it. That shit pisses me off.
Okay, sorry, Jack. Anyway, I'm calling to ask how the autopsy's going. Soon there'll be journalists sniffing around for info, so we best be ready.
I'll whiz through this in a couple of hours. It doesn't look like a complicated case to me. More of a formality. The report will be available in the morning.
Sounds great. Thanks. Phew! How's your head?
Well, my head seems better than yours. On the way to what?
Holy fuck!
What? What's happening?
Quiet!
A 3-car police convoy was involved in an accident near Pete's Bay Bridge while transporting prisoners to Orleans Parish Prison. At the moment, we do not know the exact number of victims or whether any of the convicts escaped. However, the scale of the accident indicates a large number of victims, possibly possibly even fatal ones. Police are on their way to investigate the incident and secure the area. We know that the injured prisoners are on death row. The police were to transport them to their execution, which was to take place tomorrow morning. Many of them are very dangerous criminals. We will report on the matter on an ongoing basis, so stay tuned with us.
What? Steven, was Red Pete one of the passengers? He was, wasn't he? What if he survived?
Jack, I have to go. You want me on site?
What if he survived?
I gotta go. Talk to you later, okay?
Fuck. Calm down, Jack. I need my pills. You heard him, Jack. A serious accident. Yes. Nothing's going to happen. Christ. I've got to get back to work. Technical break. At least I know I can pursue a career as a janitor if I need to. Alright, let's see if we were able to get anything out of this piece of crap. And miraculously, yes, the samples did spin. I'll transfer them to the chromograph in the lab. Trusted centrifuge. Ideal for all the fluid tests I need to perform during an autopsy. Poor soul. I get cases like this more than any poor soul. I get cases like this more than any other. Poor soul. I get cases like this more than any other. A considerable collection. My old but trusted centrifuge. Ideal for all the fluid tests I need to perform during an autopsy. I wasn't sure it would amount to anything, but the World Wide Web has been a blessing for speeding up my work. Some of my previous cases, a reminder of more prosperous times. Alright, let's load this up. I placed the test tubes in the rack. Now, just take 5 milliliters from each. Precisely. And the next. Five more. We put the prepared sample into the machine. The results indicate that the deceased did consume alcohol shortly before her death. However, this is not an amount that could cause poisoning leading to death, just slight inebriation. I can return to the body and continue the rest of the examination. The chromatograph results show that we can eliminate alcohol poisoning from our list of potential causes of death. However, remember that alcohol can affect the functioning of the entire body. It disturbs the heart rhythm, accelerating its rate, and dilutes the blood, which may result in more severe bleeding in the event of an accident. Also remember that alcohol affects the metabolism of drugs in the liver, which I'll now look at in more detail. First, I'll pick up the syringe again. I'll take samples from the liver and the heart to test the concentration of barbiturates in the body. That's enough. I'll do the test later. I'd best not try my luck with the centrifuge right now. Now I remove the liver. No lesions. However, it is slightly enlarged. Perhaps it's a slight inflammation or drug-induced damage. It may also be the result of the deposition of substances from drugs. Let's check the weight of the organ. The weight is 1,300 grams. The liver is enlarged. I'll move on to a cross-sectional study. Perhaps the enlargement is the result of early cancerous changes. The blade glides through smoothly. I don't feel like I'm encountering any changes with an unusual structure. No steatosis or cirrhosis. The liver is actually quite clean inside. The liver is basically healthy. We already know that the deceased didn't abuse alcohol. The question is, what about drugs or other substances? I move on to the heart. Oh, at a glance, we can see signs of a heart attack. The deceased is definitely too young to have a heart attack due to natural causes. The liver is enlarged, not from alcohol poisoning, and the heart looks like it has collapsed. So, I guess we need to go to the centrifuge and check for these barbiturates. I wonder how she was able to get these drugs. The last time I saw this Thursday was a few years ago. He was a middle-aged guy. He took his medication and forgot about it. So he took another pill. He forgot again and took another one. And another one. Until he took another one. That's why it's better to have amnesic drugs in boxes labeled with the days of the week. This sort of thing rarely happens anymore. Doctors tend to prescribe benzodiazepines. They are safer, but still shouldn't be combined with alcohol.
Intentando. ¿Y qué va a hacer?
We close the centrifuge and pray that it doesn't trip anything again. It looks like our luck is in. We can take the samples to the lab now. Okay, 2 samples this time. 6 milliliters each. Well, let's see how much of it we find. Nothing surprising. Significant amounts of phenobarbital metabolites of hepatic origin. Looks like I'll have to check the contents of the deceased's stomach. The tests showed that the collected blood contained enough barbiturates to cause cardiopulmonary collapse. The question now is whether it was an accident or a deliberate act. I'm proceeding to examine the stomach. Before extraction, I ligate the entire organ to prevent its contents from spilling out. Okay, I'm now cutting out the organ, which will move to the board for dissection. Normally, the stomach and intestines are full of surprises. But not this time. We see remnants of undigested food and a dense mass of pills. You don't take this many drugs by accident. Length and width normal. No obvious pathology. Undigested drugs found in the stomach of the deceased. The direct cause of death was probably an overdose. I'll check the rest of the organs, and then the nervous system. We'll see how significant the marks on the lungs are normal. No lesions. The victim was probably a smoker, but was unlikely to be in any serious danger. The deceased's trachea is normal. Complete patency. No food or fluid. The deceased's intestine is normal. No clear pathological changes. Abdominal cavity checked off. We can check the brain. I make a cut to open the lid of the victim's skull and remove the brain. Brain is normal. No obvious lesions. All right. I need to dissect it on a board. Using a knife, I carefully cut through the brain tissue. As expected, the deceased's brain is in excellent condition. No discoloration or changes due to hypoxia. There is still the matter of the marks on the neck. They look superficial, but who knows? Maybe the spinal cord has been severed. I need goggles and a saber saw. I think the goggles were in the desk drawer. No. My pills. No. This is too much for me. My pills. They should be in the bathroom. left it in the basement after its last cleaning. Mr. Ridley, I need a key to the basement.
It's in the social room.
Why is the key lying at the... never mind. Thank you.
Hey, Hammond, did you hear about the convoy? Maybe you'll get a chance to relive your glory days and catch Red Beat again, huh?
Let's hope there won't be a need for that. If only he could put that much enthusiasm into his work. I get the feeling that searching through this rubbish is more pathogenic than working with corpses. Please, may this be the last try. Scalpel, scissors, syringe, magnifying glass, knife. I guess I forgot to clean the knife. Another kidnapping this month. Archives. Just as lifeless as the corpses they concern. Maybe later. I'm still hungover, and it might tip me over the edge.
Interesante.
Fuck. Why did the prison convoy have to get into an accident? Jack, take a deep breath. Deep, pleasantly cool breath. You're nearly finished with the autopsy. Then you can go home and rest. I'll take this. I'll check. Fuck! It's jammed! Doesn't anyone do maintenance around here? Damn hatch. Damn red Pete. I never. If only. Forgot this thing was standing here. It would be easier if I put things away properly. Damn student lectures and their fucking props. Sorry for the short interruption. I hope you all took the opportunity to grab some coffee. And now that I have everything I need, I'll move on to revealing the spinal cord. The spine is removed. Calm down, Jack. Take it easy. Take your pills. I can see that the spinal cord was not severed. This shows that apart from the marks around the neck, hanging didn't negatively affect the condition of the deceased. Ladies and gentlemen, almost over. Now, to sum up and tidy away the body. The direct cause of Samantha Barker's death was a heart attack resulting from an overdose of barbiturates. Traces found on the body suggest that the overdose was a deliberate act, following a failed attempt to hang herself. The autopsy found no evidence or genetic materials indicating that death could have been the result of an attack. Third-party involvement must be excluded. Autograph, and we can start sewing. In the 1950s and 1960s, the use of barbiturates for suicide was actually quite common. I think it was most talked about after the death of Marilyn Monroe. At home, it was a help and comfort. On death row, a farewell to the convicts. Well, that's the way it goes. It isn't the drug, but the dose that makes the poison. Well, we're done for today. Thank you for your attention. Tiring day. I can feel those hunger pains coming on. I guess I'll have to pick something up along the way. A nightcap will do me good. Good night, Mr. Ridley. The police will pick up the body and accompanying documentation in the morning. I guess there are actually two things in this world you can be certain of. Death and Ridley's reluctant attitude. Alright, maybe three things. My whiskey on the rocks when I get home. So cold. I guess I should have brought my jacket to work. This block can be quite intimidating when it's so quiet. What? What? What the fuck? But I locked it. I'm sure of it. Who the fuck did this? I don't have anything valuable. Money. They must have stolen the money. Oh god. Oh god. What am I supposed to do now? Great. That's all I need. Fuck! What if it was Red Pete? Where? I need my pills. I can't get my thought. Christ. Why did the neighbors not report anything? I'm calling Steven. Steven.
Now, Jack, I told you I'm going for a drink with you for another night in a row.
That's not why I'm ringing. Although I could do with one. Someone broke into my apartment.
What? Did anyone see anything? Have you called the police yet?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, someone contacted me. As for the police, I'm calling right now, officer.
All right. Do you want me to head around? Look for any trace evidence?
I don't know. No, I guess not. Honestly, I don't have the strength to deal with it right now. I just want to lie down.
Are you sure? Because it's no trouble at all.
I think so. I'm sorry. I just wanted to calm down a bit. I don't know. It's probably some stupid joke. Only money was stolen.
Money? From Alice's box? Oh, fuck. Listen, I can come over. I have the key. I'll drop by, do what I need to do, and you go get some sleep.
No, don't trouble yourself. Lately, I've been just so tired and distracted. I don't know. Maybe I forgot to close the apartment door on my way to work. If anything else is missing, I'll let you know and call the police.
All right. Just make sure you close it tonight. If you see anything weird tomorrow, let me know. Whoever did this may be watching you.
I don't think anyone is dumb enough to come back.
You're probably right. Take care, Jack. If you need anything, call me.
I promise I will. Thanks, Steven. Sorry to bother you again. I've just been all over the place lately.
It's not a problem. Good night, Jack.
Good night. I guess I should clean this shit up. Where to start? I should pack this thing away. I have no interest in DIY at the moment. Maybe I can barricade the door with this. There you go. To be honest, I could leave it like this. I'm glad this didn't break. Now I'm sure I won't get caught up in these papers. Alice's family should really have some of these. That's enough for now. Jeez, I'm exhausted. I'll get the rest in the morning. That's enough. I need to quickly change and finish getting ready. yeah, I should take my pills.
Tranquilo.
I feel like it takes me forever to finish these things. Time to go. Remember to close the door properly, Jack. I'll ask the neighbors tomorrow if they saw anything suspicious. I wonder if Ridley fixed the coffee machine. Maybe a bit optimistic. I better grab a coffee on the way. I'm exhausted. I wonder who Stephen brought in today. Good morning, Mr. Ridley. Oh, he's not here yet? No, I'll do without him. I hope he... Oh, come on. He was too lazy to even wheel the gurney to the autopsy room. Almost there. Now for the tough part. The body needs to be moved. Where's Ridley when you need him? Alright. I just need some gloves and my apron. Then I can get to work. I'm going to need my tape recorder for this. Autopsy dated November 22nd, 7:32 p.m. Led by Dr. Jack Hanman. I begin by verifying the identity of the Jane Doe. It's most likely Harper Lloyd, age 35, found in a well-owned house by her neighbors Leonard and Dorothy Chelsea, reported missing for a week. Firefighters found the body after the Chelsea family began complaining that their tap water tasted strange, and at one point had begun to smell and turn a dark color. It is also known that the deceased was diagnosed with affective bipolar disorder. Harper was placed on drug therapy, which she dropped out of fairly regularly. During her treatment, she was under the care of her common law partner, Richard Benson, professional truck driver. Police records also show that Mrs. Lloyd was in constant conflict with her neighbors. The constant parties and subsequent brawls made living in the area nearly impossible, especially when Lloyd's partner wasn't around. The last person who had contact with the deceased was her partner. Harper's last message read as follows: "I'm gonna take a shit in their stupid well. Then we'll see who has the last laugh." Nice one. I proceed to open the bag and check the state of decomposition of the corpse. The most important task in forensic identification of a drowned person is to distinguish whether the death occurred before or after entering the water. Okay, that could have been worse. I carefully removed the victim's clothes so as not to damage this. The deceased was found, one shoe was missing. I'm going to need the camera to document all possible suspicious marks. Definitely the first thing that stands out is the very advanced post-mortem gigantism. The skin of the deceased appears very delicate, smooth, and relaxed from being in the water for a long time. The whole body is extremely pale. There are bruises and hemorrhages on the neck. These usually occur due to increased inhalation when fighting to breathe underwater. There are some obvious scratches in the skin. The so-called washer-wound skin on the feet. The deceased had indeed been in the water for a long time. It's likely that the deceased was lying on her back when she was fished out. Post-mortem markings are seen on the underside of the body. That is, on the back, thighs, and calves of the deceased. The skin on the hands can be easily separated from the body. The separation takes the form of a glove. So, after the preliminary exam, it's time to take a closer look at this. Day's date. The deceased was closed. Rigor mortis does not need to be checked. Based on the state of decay, you can be sure it has subsided. Where to start? There are obvious scratches on the skin, especially on the back and hands. These could be defensive wounds, evidence of some sort of altercation prior to death. We see thick white foam in the mouth of the deceased, resulting from pulmonary edema. Foam is a characteristic in deaths due to drowning. The spots have a purplish blue-red hue, which is a typical sign of the death of the organism. Yep, pretty typical. Liver mortis are formed as a result of putrefaction of blood in the veins. Due to the fact that the deceased was wearing shoes all the time, her feet are in better condition than her hands. Nevertheless, we can still notice a clear, wavy skin and the so-called washerwoman's skin texture. No obvious signs of struggle. The skin on the hands would have easily peeled away from the flesh. Some of the fingers have already lost their nails. Okay, that's probably enough to indicate it. I'd better note that down in the records. Marks found on the neck and foaming at the mouth are typical signs of drowning people. Those abrasions appear relatively fresh. No healing or scarring. There doesn't seem to be anything unusual about this liver mortis. Diffuse spots are caused by blood rotting in the veins.
¿Déjala bien y todo?
Hands heavily wrinkled from submersion in water. Typical washerwoman's skin. Considering the deceased's penchant for drinking alcohol, it could have been a mere accident.
Ahí está, mira este.
Liver mortis of a different color can indicate poisoning. In this case, the question is, was drowning in it? Maybe it's just abrasion, or maybe the result of their distribution suggests that the victim was probably, fortunately, a simple trip, loss of balance, and as a result, you end up in a deep hole with no way out. That's all for now. Before I begin the dissection, I'll make sure the suggested identity is correct. The suitcase with the fingerprint equipment should be around here somewhere. A considerable collection. Oh, here it is. If the body of the deceased is well preserved, fingerprinting is similar to that. The fingerprint sheet should always be checked. Slipping fingers, too much. With decomposing bodies, the tissue of the pads of the fingers tends to shrink. To remove these shrinkages, a mixture of glycerin or air is used. I'm going to conduct a dactyloscopic examination. If in fact the deceased is in the police database, I will find her. Glycerin is injected successively between the nail and the skin of each finger. The substance then enters the fingertip, removing shrinkage and wrinkles. a brush. Only when the skin is taut and elastic can you use ink. I think it's enough. I'm getting fingerprint samples. In the case of drowning victims, you have to be extremely careful. The skin may fall off the hand like a glove when you take the print. I'll use the fax machine to add the print into the system. Green button and... Once the data uploads, I'll run the prints against the police database on the computer. Great. The data is there. Click upload. Now, go through the database and find a matching print. Expect possible hours of fun. Analyze button. And we have a result. Everyone has a story to tell, even if it's just a police record. So, as predicted, the deceased turned out to be Harper Lloyd. That went smoothly. I'll print this out and attach it to the medical records. Great. Now we can go back to my inspection. I'm adding the name of the deceased. I'll start the internal examination by taking fluid from the victim's brain. A needle inserted through the nose will do the trick. If the victim was alive when she fell into the well, she must have swallowed water fighting for her life. And then diatoms, characteristics of pooled water like a well, got into the body. In the meantime, I'll check the sample under the microscope. I'm sure that these algae traces will be found in the samples taken from the well where police found the body. Now I need to adjust the knobs properly and place the diatom in the... I won't even notice an army of diatoms. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. And perfect. It's not a dirty lens, I'm afraid, but rather a bad focus. And perfect. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration of these algae. As expected, we find the aforementioned algae in the solution. Their upper part, epitheca, which overlaps the lower, hypotheca, is clearly visible. The presence of diatoms in the brain samples taken indicate the deceased was certainly alive when she fell into the water, possibly conscious. Since there were diatoms in the brain, it means that many more of them must have entered the body. Studies of the rest of the organs will most likely confirm this hypothesis. I can finally get to the practical part.